Taeho wiped the grease from his hands and looked at the clock on the wall. His shift was almost over. He had been working at Orbital Station Horizon for 2 years now, and every day felt the same. Wake up, eat, work, sleep, repeat. He was not unhappy, but he was not happy either. He simply existed, floating through space like the station itself. The station was humanity's first real step into the galaxy. It was a place where humans and aliens came together to trade goods, share technology, and sometimes argue about prices. Tai-Ho worked in the customs department. His job was simple. He checked cargo, verified documents, and solved problems when they came up. He was good at his job because he was patient. Most aliens found humans strange and confusing. Most humans found aliens terrifying and unpredictable. Tai-Ho found everyone just tired and trying to get through the day, no matter what planet they came from. Today had been a long day. A shipment of medical supplies had been held up because of a missing signature. The merchant was a Velari woman, tall and thin with silver skin that seemed to glow under the station lights. Her eyes were large and violet, and they looked at Tai-Ho with a mixture of frustration and exhaustion. She had been waiting for 3 hours. "I do not understand," she said. Her voice was soft but strained. "I have all the documents. Why is there a problem?" Tai-Ho looked at her paperwork again. She was right. Everything was in order except for one small thing. The signature on Form 7 was digital, but station rules required a physical mark for medical goods. It was a stupid rule. Everyone knew it was a stupid rule. But rules were rules, and the officer before Tai-Ho had refused to let the shipment pass. Tai-Ho looked at the Velari woman. She looked tired. Not just physically tired, but the kind of tired that comes from being treated badly for a long time. He had seen that look before on the faces of new workers at the station, the ones who came from poor countries on Earth and were looked down upon by others. He did not like that look. "Wait here," he said. He walked to the back office and found the form he needed. It was a special exception form, used only in rare cases. Technically, he was supposed to get approval from his supervisor, but his supervisor had gone home early, as he always did. Tai-Ho signed the form himself, stamped it with his personal code, and walked back to the Velari woman. "Here," he said, handing her the approved documents. "Your shipment is clear. You can go." The woman stared at him. Her violet eyes blinked slowly, as if she could not believe what she was hearing. You helped me," she said. "Why?" Tai-Ho shrugged. "It was the right thing to do. The rule was stupid. Your paperwork was fine. There was no reason to make you wait longer." The woman continued to stare at him. In the 2 years Tai-Ho had worked at the station, he had helped many aliens with their problems. Most of them simply thanked him and left. Some did not even thank him, but this woman looked at him like he had done something extraordinary, something impossible. "I am Lyra," she said finally. "I will remember your kindness, human." Tai-Ho nodded. "I am Tai-Ho. Good luck with your delivery." He expected her to leave. Instead, she stood there for a moment longer, as if making a decision. Then she reached into her robe and pulled out a small object. It was a card made of some kind of crystal, pale blue and glowing faintly from within. "This is an invitation," Lyra said, "to my home. My family holds a traditional dinner in 3 days. I would be honored if you would attend." Tai-Ho blinked. In 2 years, no alien had ever invited him anywhere. Humans and aliens worked together on the station, but they did not socialize. There was too much fear on both sides, too much misunderstanding. The idea of going to an alien's home for dinner was strange, maybe even dangerous. But Lyra's eyes were sincere. There was no trick in them, no hidden agenda that Tai-Ho could see. She was simply grateful, and she wanted to show it in the way her people knew how. Thank you," Tai-Ho said, taking the crystal card. It was warm in his hand. "I would be honored to attend." Lyra smiled. It was a strange smile, because Velari mouths were shaped differently than human mouths. But Tai-Ho could tell it was a real smile, full of warmth. "I will send you the location," she said. "Please come. My family will be happy to meet you." She turned and walked away, her silver skin catching the light as she disappeared into the crowd of aliens and humans moving through the station. Tai-Ho looked down at the crystal card in his hand. It pulsed gently. like a heartbeat. He did not know it then, but that small card would change his life forever. The next 3 days passed slowly. Taiho tried to focus on his work, but his mind kept returning to the invitation. He asked his co-workers if they knew anything about the Valari. Most of them shrugged. The Valari were a minor species, they said. Traders and merchants, nothing special. They kept to themselves and did not cause trouble. That was all anyone knew. Taiho searched the station database for more information. He learned that the Valari came from a distant star system and that they lived on large colony ships instead of planets. He learned that they were a peaceful species with no military to speak of. He learned that they were known for their beautiful crafts and textiles, which they traded throughout the galaxy. But he could not find anything about their culture, their customs, or what to expect at a traditional dinner. On the night of the dinner, Taiho stood in front of his small mirror and tried to decide what to wear. He had no formal clothes, only his work uniform and a few casual outfits. In the end, he chose simple black pants and a clean white shirt. He also grabbed a small box from his shelf. Inside were traditional Korean sweets that his mother had sent him from Earth. He did not know if Valari could eat human food, but he remembered that bringing a gift was polite in most cultures. He hoped it would be the same for the Valari. He took a deep breath and left his quarters. The journey to the Valari colony ship took about an hour. Taiho rode a small transport shuttle through the darkness of space, watching the stars drift by outside the window. The Valari ship was massive, much larger than he had expected. It looked like a floating city, with towers and domes and lights twinkling like 1,000 fireflies. As the shuttle approached, Taiho felt his heart beat faster. He was about to enter a world completely unknown to him. He had no idea what waited for him inside. The shuttle landed softly on a platform near the center of the Valari colony ship. Taiho stepped out and immediately felt different. The air was warmer here, and it carried a sweet smell like flowers after rain. The ground beneath his feet was not metal like the station, but something softer, almost like packed earth. Above him, the ceiling glowed with a gentle blue light that felt like moonlight on a clear night. A young Valari woman was waiting for him. She was shorter than Lyra, with the same silver skin and violet eyes. She wore a simple robe of deep purple, and she smiled when she saw him. "You are the human," she said. It was not a question. "I am Neva. Lyra sent me to guide you. Please follow me." Taiho nodded and walked beside her. Neva moved quickly, almost bouncing with each step. She reminded Taiho of his younger sister back on Earth, always full of energy and curiosity. "Is it true that humans can survive in very hot places?" Neva asked as they walked. "And very cold places? And places with almost no air?" Taiho thought about the question. "Some humans can, with training. We are good at adapting to different places." Neva's eyes grew wide. "Amazing. The Galaxy files say humans are Class 7 adaptive predators. That is a very scary classification, but you do not look scary at all." Taiho did not know what to say to that, so he simply smiled. They walked through winding streets lined with buildings that looked like they had grown from the ground rather than been built. Other Valari watched them pass, their violet eyes following Taiho with obvious curiosity. He was probably the first human many of them had ever seen up close. He tried to walk calmly and not do anything strange. Finally, they reached a large building at the end of a quiet street. It was beautiful, with walls that shimmered like mother of pearl and windows that glowed with warm light from inside. Neva stopped at the door and turned to Taiho. "This is our home," she said. "Everyone is very excited to meet you. Lyra has told us many good things." Before Taiho could respond, the door slid open. Neva grabbed his hand and pulled him inside. He froze. The room was large and filled with soft light. There were cushions on the floor instead of chairs, and the walls were decorated with beautiful tapestries showing stars and ships in distant worlds. But Taiho did not notice any of this at first. He only noticed the women. There were 6 of them. 6 Valari women, all turning to look at him at the same moment. Their violet eyes glowed in the soft light, and for one terrible second, Taiho felt like a small animal surrounded by predators. His body wanted to run. His legs wanted to turn around and go back to the shuttle and never return. But he did not run. He forced himself to stay still. He forced himself to breathe. Lyra stepped forward from the group. She looked nervous, her hands clasped together in front of her. Tae-ho, she said, I am so glad you came. I, I may have mentioned you to my family. They all wanted to meet you. I hope you do not mind. Tae-ho looked at the 6 women looking at him. One was very old with silver hair and wise eyes. One was tall and muscular, with scars on her arms. One wore strange glasses and held a small device in her hand. One looked at him with suspicion, her arms crossed over her chest. And then there was Neva, still holding his hand and smiling up at him. He was alone. He was far from home. He was surrounded by aliens he did not understand. And somehow he was not afraid. I do not mind, he said. His voice was calm. Thank you for inviting me to your home. The old woman stepped forward. She moved slowly but with great dignity, like a queen approaching a visitor. Her eyes studied Tae-ho carefully, looking at every part of him as if reading a book. I am Aura, she said. I am the mother of this family. You are welcome in our home, human. We have heard much about you. Tae-ho bowed his head respectfully. Thank you for having me. I am honored to be here. He remembered the box in his hand. He held it out toward Aura. I brought a gift, he said. It is a custom from my home. These are sweets made by my mother on Earth. I do not know if your people can eat them, but I wanted to bring something. The room went very quiet. Tae-ho looked around, wondering if he had done something wrong. Even Neva had stopped smiling. Everyone was staring at the box in his hands like it was something dangerous. Lyra's face had turned a darker shade of silver. Was she blushing? Tae-ho, she said softly. Among our people, bringing a gift to a family home it has a special meaning. What meaning? Tae-ho asked. The woman with crossed arms spoke. Her voice was sharp. It means you have serious intentions. It means you are not here as a casual guest. Tae-ho felt his face grow hot. He had not known. He had just wanted to be polite. I apologize, he said quickly. I did not know your custom. In my culture, bringing a small gift is simply polite. I did not mean to. Do not apologize, Nora interrupted. Her voice was calm, and there was something like amusement in her eyes. It is interesting. Most visitors would be too proud to admit a mistake. You are honest, I respect that. She took the box from his hands and opened it. Inside were small round sweets made of rice and covered in fine powder. Aura picked one up and examined it closely. They smell pleasant, she said. We will try them later with the meal. Now come, sit. You must be tired from your journey. She led Tae-ho to a cushion near the center of the room. He sat down, trying to copy the way the Valari women sat with their legs folded beneath them. It was not comfortable, but he did not complain. The other women took their places around him. Lyra sat to his left, still looking embarrassed. The suspicious woman sat directly across from him, watching his every move. The muscular one leaned against the wall, her arms crossed. The one with glasses sat nearby, typing something into her device. Neva sat as close to Tae-ho as she could, her eyes bright with curiosity. You did not run, said the suspicious woman suddenly. When you saw us all here, you froze, but you did not run. Why? Tae-ho thought about the question. Running would have been rude, and you have done nothing to threaten me. Most species would have run, the muscular woman said. Her voice was deep and rough, or at least backed away. Being outnumbered makes most creatures afraid. I am not most creatures, Tae-ho said simply. The muscular woman laughed. It was a short, sharp laugh, but it seemed genuine. I like this one. He has courage, even if he is small and soft. Sela, be polite, Aura said, but there was warmth in her voice. The one with glasses leaned forward. Your heart rate increased when you entered, but it stabilized within seconds. Your body showed signs of the fear response, but you controlled it consciously. That is remarkable. Most species cannot do that. Tae-ho blinked. Were you measuring me? I am Danny, the woman said. I am a scientist. I study living things. Humans are very interesting to me. Your bodies are not the strongest or fastest, but your minds can control your bodies in ways that other species cannot. It is one of the things that makes you so dangerous. I am not dangerous, Tae-ho said. Every woman in the room looked at him. Even Neva's smile faded for a moment. All humans are dangerous, Aura said quietly. That is not an insult. It is simply true. But dangerous does not mean evil. A storm is dangerous. A fire is dangerous. They can also bring life and warmth. We shall see which kind of dangerous you are. She clapped her hands together, and the tension in the room broke like a bubble. But first we eat. Lyra, help me bring the food. Our guest must be hungry. Teho watched as Lyra and Aura disappeared into another room. He was still surrounded by alien women, still far from home, still unsure of what was happening. But somehow he felt that he was exactly where he was supposed to be. Lyra and Aura returned carrying trays of food. The trays floated beside them, held up by some kind of invisible force. Teho watched in amazement as the trays settled gently onto the low table in the center of the room. The food on them was unlike anything he had ever seen. There were bowls of something that looked like glowing soup, with small lights floating inside the liquid. There were plates of what appeared to be vegetables, but they pulsed with soft colors, changing from blue to purple to pink. There were round objects that might have been bread, but they seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting slowly. And in the center of the table was a large dish containing something that looked like a flower made of meat, its petals arranged in a perfect spiral. Teho tried not to stare, but he could not help it. Everything on the table was beautiful in a strange alien way. He had eaten station food for 2 years, gray and tasteless, and meant only to keep him alive. This was something completely different. Please eat, Aura said, gesturing to the food. In our culture, the guest takes the first portion. Teho hesitated. He did not know what any of this food was. He did not know if it was safe for humans. But refusing would be rude, and he had already made one mistake with the gift. He could not afford another. He reached for the soup first. It seemed the safest choice. He lifted the bowl to his lips and took a small sip. The taste exploded in his mouth. It was sweet and salty at the same time, with a strange warmth that spread through his chest. The small lights inside the soup dissolved on his tongue like sugar. It was delicious, unlike anything he had ever tasted before. This is wonderful, he said honestly. Neva clapped her hands together happily. He likes it. I told you humans could eat our food. We were not sure, Danny explained, her eyes fixed on Teho. Human biology is unusual. Many things that other species enjoy are poisonous to you. We prepared this meal carefully, using only ingredients we knew were safe. Teho felt touched by this. They had gone to great trouble to make food he could eat. That meant they had been planning this for some time, thinking about his safety, caring about his comfort. It was more kindness than he expected from strangers. The other women began to serve themselves, and the meal continued. Teho tried everything on the table. Most of it was good. Some of it was strange. The breathing bread tasted like honey and made his tongue tingle. The color-changing vegetables were crunchy and refreshing. The meat flour was tender and rich, though he tried not to think too much about what animal it had come from. But then he reached for a small dish that had been placed near the edge of the table. It contained thin slices of something red and shiny. He picked up a slice and put it in his mouth. Fire. His entire mouth was on fire. His eyes watered. His throat burned. He wanted to scream, but he forced himself to chew and swallow. He reached for his drink and gulped it down desperately. The room was silent. Everyone was watching him. That was the burning root, Sela said, a small smile on her scarred face. It is a traditional food for warriors. Most people cannot handle the heat. Teho coughed, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. His mouth still burned, but the pain was fading slowly. It was interesting, he managed to say. Very strong flavor. Sela laughed again, that short, sharp laugh. You ate the whole piece. You did not spit it out. That takes courage, little human. Or stubbornness, Kessa said. She was the suspicious woman, and she had barely spoken since the meal began. Humans are famous for their stubbornness. I prefer to call it determination, Teho said. Neva bounced excitedly in her seat. Tell us about Earth. Is it true that water falls from the sky there? And that you have giant creatures living in the water? And that you change your body coverings every day? Teho smiled despite the lingering burn in his mouth. Yes to all of those. We call the falling water rain. The giant creatures are called whales. And yes, we change our clothes every day, sometimes more than once. Why? Neva asked, genuinely puzzled. For cleanliness, Tejo said, and because different clothes are appropriate for different activities. We have clothes for sleeping, clothes for working, clothes for celebrations. That seems very complicated, Danny observed. Your species wastes much energy on things that have no survival value. Perhaps, Tejo agreed, but those things make life more enjoyable. Survival is not everything. We also want to live well. Aura made a soft sound of interest. That is an unusual philosophy. Most species we have met are focused only on survival and power. They do not think about living well. Humans think about it often, Tejo said. We have many words for happiness, many ideas about what makes a good life. We argue about it constantly. We write books and make art and compose music trying to understand it. Music, Neva said dreamily. I have heard human music on the trading networks. It is very beautiful. Will you play music for us sometime? I can try, Tejo said. I am not very good, but I can play a little. The meal continued and the conversation flowed more easily now. Neva asked endless questions about Earth and human culture. Danny asked about human biology, fascinated by how such fragile-looking creatures had become one of the most successful species in the galaxy. Even Kessa began to relax slightly, though she still watched Taiho with careful eyes. Sela told stories about her time as a warrior, protecting Valari trading ships from pirates and raiders. She spoke of battles fought in the darkness between stars, of enemies defeated and friends lost. Her voice was rough but proud, and Taiho found himself respecting her strength and experience. Lyra mostly listened, sitting quietly beside Taiho and occasionally refilling his drink. She seemed happy that her family was accepting him, but there was something else in her eyes too, something Taiho could not quite understand. Finally, Aura spoke. She had been quiet for most of the meal, watching and listening. Now she leaned forward slightly, her ancient eyes fixed on Taiho. I have a question for you, human, she said, and I want an honest answer. Taiho set down his drink. I will answer honestly. Why did you help Lyra that day on the station? You had nothing to gain. The other officers had already refused. You could have done the same. Why did you choose differently? The room went quiet. Everyone was listening. Taiho thought about the question. He thought about Lyra standing in the customs office, tired and frustrated. He thought about the stupid rule that was keeping her from doing her job. He thought about the choice he had made. Because it was right, he said simply. The rule was wrong. Lyra had done nothing wrong. Letting her suffer because of a bad rule would have been unjust. I do not like injustice. But there was risk, Aura pressed. You broke protocol. You could have lost your job. Yes, Taiho agreed. But some things are more important than keeping a job. Doing the right thing is one of them. Aura leaned back. Her expression was strange, a mixture of confusion and something that might have been wonder. In all my long years, she said softly, I have met many species. I have traded with them, lived among them, watched them rise and fall. Most of them do what is profitable. Some do what is safe. Very few do what is right simply because it is right. You are an unusual creature. Taiho of Earth. Taiho did not know what to say. He had not done anything special. He had just been himself. Thank you for the meal, he said instead. Everything was delicious. I am grateful for your hospitality. Aura smiled, and for a moment she looked almost young. The night is not over yet, young human. There is still the matter of the sweets you brought. Neva, bring the box. Neva jumped up and ran to get the box of Korean sweets. As she brought them to the table, Taiho felt a strange sense of connection. Here he was, millions of miles from home, sharing his mother's cooking with a family of alien women who had welcomed him into their home. It was strange, it was wonderful, and somehow it felt like the beginning of something important. The Korean sweets were a great success. Neva ate 3 of them before anyone could stop her, declaring them the most wonderful things she had ever tasted. Even Kessa tried one, and though she did not smile, she nodded her approval. Aura ate one slowly, savoring each bite, and thanked Taiho for sharing something so precious from his home. But Sela did not eat. She stood by the wall, watching Taiho with an expression he could not read. When the others finished eating and the conversation began to fade, she stepped forward. I want to test him, she said. The room went quiet. Lyra looked worried. Neva stopped mid-bite. Even Danny put down her device. Sela, Aura said carefully, he is our guest. I do not wish to harm him, Sela said. I only want to understand him. Words tell us what a creature thinks, but only a test tells us what a creature truly is. Aura looked at Taiho. You do not have to accept. Sela's tests are not gentle. Taiho looked at Sela. The warrior woman was tall and strong, her body marked with scars from battles he could not imagine. She was not threatening him. She was offering him something, a chance to prove himself in a way that words could not. What kind of test? He asked. Sela smiled, showing teeth that were sharper than human teeth. A test of endurance. Simple but true. You hold the cold orb until you cannot hold it anymore. That is all. And if I refuse? Then you refuse. There is no punishment. But I will not respect you, and my respect is not easily given. Taiho thought about this. He had nothing to prove to these women. He had come here for a simple dinner, not to compete in alien trials. But something inside him did not want to refuse. Something inside him wanted to show them what humans were made of. I accept, Chamont, he said. Sela nodded, looking pleased. She walked to a cabinet against the wall and opened it. Inside was a small box made of dark metal. She carried the box to the center of the room and opened it carefully. Inside was an orb about the size of a human fist. It was white and blue, covered in frost, and cold air rose from it, like steam in reverse. Even from where he sat, Taiho could feel the cold radiating from it. This is a winter orb, Sela explained. It comes from the ice moons of our old homeworld. It stays frozen forever, no matter how warm the environment. When you hold it, the cold enters your body. It is painful. Most species drop it within seconds. How long do I need to hold it? Taiho asked. There is no time limit. You hold it until you choose to drop it, or until your body forces you to let go. The longer you hold it, the more I will respect you. Taiho stood up from his cushion. His legs were stiff from sitting in an unfamiliar position, but he ignored the discomfort. He walked to where Sela stood and looked at the orb. It was beautiful in a terrible way. The frost on its surface seemed to move, crawling across the white and blue like living ice. He could hear a faint cracking sound, like a frozen lake shifting under the sun. Ready? Sela asked. Taiho took a deep breath. He reached out and wrapped both hands around the orb. The cold hit him like a hammer. It was beyond anything he had ever felt. It was like plunging his hands into liquid nitrogen. It was like grabbing a piece of a star that had been turned to ice. Every nerve in his hands screamed at him to let go, to drop the terrible thing and save himself. He did not let go. The cold spread up his arms. His muscles began to shake. His skin turned red, then white, then began to turn blue at the fingertips. The pain was incredible, a burning cold that seemed to reach into his bones. 10 seconds passed, then 20, then 30. Sela's expression changed from curiosity to surprise. You can stop now. You have proven yourself. Taiho shook his head. His jaw was clenched so tight he could not speak. 1 minute passed. The cold had reached his elbows now. His hands were completely numb, but somehow he could still feel the pain underneath the numbness, a deep ache that throbbed with every heartbeat. Neva looked frightened. He should stop. His hands are turning blue. Humans are not made for this kind of cold. Danny was watching her device, her eyes wide. His body temperature is dropping rapidly. If he continues much longer, he will suffer permanent damage. Still, Taiho did not let go. 2 minutes. His entire body was shaking now. Sweat poured down his face despite the cold, and his vision was starting to blur. The orb seemed to grow heavier and heavier, as if it were trying to drag him down into darkness. He thought about his father, who had worked in a factory for 30 years without ever taking a sick day. He thought about his grandmother, who had survived a war and raised 5 children alone. He thought about all the humans who had struggled and suffered and refused to give up, even when giving up would have been easier. He was not special. He was just human, and humans did not quit. 3 minutes. Kessa stood up from her cushion, looking concerned for the first time. Stop the test, Sela. He is hurting himself. Sela did not respond. She was staring at Teho with an expression he had never seen before. It was not surprise anymore. It was something closer to awe. Enough, Aura commanded. Her voice was sharp with authority. The test is over. Teho, drop the orb, now. Teho's hands did not want to open. They had frozen into position around the orb, the muscles locked by cold and willpower. He had to force them apart, finger by finger, using all the strength he had left. The orb fell to the floor with a thud. It rolled slightly, leaving a trail of frost on the ground. Teho stood there, swaying on his feet. His hands hung at his sides, white and blue and red all at once. They did not feel like his hands anymore. They felt like objects attached to his body, foreign and strange. Lyra rushed to his side. She took his hands gently in hers, and he could feel warmth spreading from her skin into his frozen flesh. "You fool," she said softly. "You brave, stubborn fool." Sela stepped forward. Her face was different now. The skepticism and challenge were gone, replaced by something that looked like respect. 3 minutes and 12 seconds, she said. No species I have ever tested has lasted more than 1 minute. Most drop it within 10 seconds. You held it for more than 3 minutes, and you only stopped because you were commanded to. She reached out and placed her hand on Teho's shoulder. It was a gesture of respect among warriors, he guessed. "I was wrong about you," Sela said. "You are not small and soft. You are strong in ways that do not show on the outside. I apologize for doubting you." Teho tried to respond, but his teeth were chattering, too hard to form words. Danny hurried over with a thermal blanket and wrapped it around his shoulders. The warmth felt like heaven after the terrible cold. "His cellular structure is remarkable," Danny muttered, examining his hands. "The damage is minimal considering the duration of exposure. Human tissues seem to have some natural resistance to extreme temperatures. Fascinating." "Is he going to be okay?" Neva asked, hovering nearby with worried eyes. "He will be fine," Danny assured her. "His hands will hurt for a few hours, but there will be no permanent damage. Humans are more durable than they appear." Kessa walked over and looked down at Teho. Her suspicious expression was gone, replaced by something thoughtful. "I did not believe the stories about humans," she said. "They say your species conquered Earth not through strength or speed, but through sheer refusal to die. They say you hunted animals by chasing them until they collapsed from exhaustion. They say you walked through deserts and climbed mountains and crossed oceans simply because you decided you would." She paused. "I believe the stories now." Aura approached last. The old matriarch looked at Teho with deep, knowing eyes. "You did not have to do that," she said gently. "You could have stopped at any time. Why did you push yourself so far?" Teho finally managed to control his shivering enough to speak. His voice was rough and weak, but clear. "Because I wanted you to see," he said, "not what humans can do, but what we are willing to do. We are not the strongest, we are not the fastest, but we do not give up. Ever. That is what makes us human." Aura smiled, and this time there was no doubt about what the expression meant. It was pride. It was welcome. It was acceptance. "Then you are welcome in this house, Teho of Earth, not as a guest, but as family." The warmth of those words reached deeper than any blanket could. The night grew late, and one by one the women of the house retired to their rooms. Neva fell asleep on her cushion, and Kessa carried her gently away. Sela nodded once to Teho, a gesture of respect, and left without words. Danny stayed longer, recording observations about Teho's recovery on her device. But eventually she too said goodnight. Soon only Teho, Lyra, and Aura remained in the main room. Teho's hands had mostly recovered. They were still slightly pink and tender, but the terrible numbness was gone. He held a warm cup of tea that Lyra had made for him, letting the heat soak into his healing fingers. Aura watched him for a long moment. The old matriarch seemed to be deciding something, weighing options in her ancient mind. "There is something I must tell you," she said finally. "Something that may change how you feel about being here." Teho set down his cup. "I am listening." Aura sighed. It was a heavy sound, full of years and sorrows. "The Valari were not always as we are now. Long ago, we were a strong species. We had males and females, as most species do. We had families, children, a future. She paused, her violet eyes distant with memory. Then came the war. It was not a war we started or wanted. Another species attacked us, seeking to take our resources and our home. We fought back. We fought for 3 generations. And in the end, we won. But the cost was terrible. What happened? Tejo asked gently. The enemy used a weapon in the final battle. A biological weapon. It killed almost all of our males. The few who survived were left unable to have children. In one day, our species went from having a future to facing extinction. Lyra looked down at her hands. Her face was sad. Taiho realized that she had grown up knowing the story, knowing that her species was dying. We survived, Aura continued. We learned to clone ourselves, to keep our numbers stable. But clones are copies. Without new genetic material, we grow weaker with each generation. We have tried to form partnerships with other species, to combine our genetics and create true children. But none have worked. The Valari and other species are too different. The children do not survive. She looked at Taiho with eyes that held both hope and fear. Humans are different. We only discovered this recently when our scientists studied human genetic material. Humans and Valari are compatible. Children between our species could be born healthy and strong. They could save us. The room was very quiet. Taiho understood now. He understood why Lyra had invited him, why the whole family had wanted to meet him, why they had tested him and watched him so carefully. They were not just looking for a friend or a guest. They were looking for a future. The invitation, he said slowly, it was not just to thank me for helping Lyra. Aura shook her head. No, I will not lie to you. When Lyra told us about the human who helped her, we saw an opportunity. We wanted to see if humans could be trusted, if they could be partners not just in trade, but in something much more important. You were evaluating me, Tejo said. It was not a question. Yes, we were. And I apologize for the deception. But you must understand we are desperate. Every year our numbers grow smaller. Every generation our genetics grow weaker. Without help, the Valari will disappear from the galaxy within a few centuries. We cannot let that happen. Tejo was quiet for a long time. He thought about what he had learned. He thought about the kindness he had been shown, and whether it was real or just a performance. He thought about Lyra sitting beside him, her silver face unable to meet his eyes. He should feel angry. He had been tricked, tested, evaluated like a piece of equipment being considered for purchase. Any reasonable person would be offended, but he did not feel angry. He felt sad. Sad for the Valari and their tragedy. Sad for Lyra, who had invited him hoping he could be something more than a guest. Sad for Aura, who had watched her species dying slowly and was grasping at any chance to save them. I understand, he said finally. Aura looked surprised. You are not angry? Should I be? Most would be. We deceived you. We brought you here under false pretenses. Tejo shook his head. You brought me here because you are trying to survive. I understand survival. Humans are experts at it. We have done many things throughout our history to keep our species alive. Some of those things were terrible. Some of them we are not proud of, but we did them because we had to. He looked at Aura directly, meeting her ancient eyes. I am not angry that you evaluated me. I am not angry that you wanted to see if humans could be trusted. Those are reasonable things to do when your species is facing extinction. What matters now is what happens next. What do you mean? Aura asked. I mean that if anything is going to happen between our species, it must be based on honesty. You have been honest with me tonight. That is good. But you must also be honest with any other humans you approach. Deception will only create distrust. And trust is the foundation of any real partnership. Aura nodded slowly. You are wise for one so young. I am not wise, Tejo said. I just know what it is like to be treated as less than what you are. I know what it is like to be used. I would not wish that on anyone, human or Valari. Lyra finally looked up. There were tears in her violet eyes, glowing softly in the dim light. I am sorry, Taiho, she said. I should have told you from the beginning. But I was afraid. Afraid you would not come. Afraid you would think badly of us. Tejo reached out and took her hand. Her skin was warm and smooth. different from human skin but not unpleasant. I do not think badly of you, he said. I think you are a person who loves her family and wants them to survive. There is nothing wrong with that. But I deceived you. You made a mistake. We all make mistakes. What matters is what we do after. Lyra squeezed his hand. Her grip was gentle but strong. I did not expect to feel this way, she said softly. When I invited you, it was because my family asked me to. I thought I was doing my duty. But after tonight, after seeing who you really are, I feel something more. Something I do not fully understand. Tejo felt his heart beat faster. He was not sure what he felt either. Lyra was alien, different from any woman he had ever known. But she was also kind and brave and honest. He had seen her vulnerability tonight, her love for her family, her hope for her people. Those were things he could understand. We do not have to decide anything tonight, he said. There is time. If something is going to happen between us, it should happen naturally. Not because your family needs it, or because my species expects it. It should happen because we choose it. Aura made a sound of surprise. Lyra looked at him with wonder. You speak of choice, Aura said, but among the Valari, choice is secondary to duty. We do what our family needs, what our species requires. Individual desire is not important. That is one way to live, Tejo acknowledged. But it is not the human way. We believe that the best things in life come from free choice. Love that is chosen is stronger than love that is arranged. Loyalty that is given is deeper than loyalty that is demanded. I am not saying your way is wrong. I am only saying that if you want humans as partners, you must understand our way too. Aura was silent for a long moment. Then she smiled, a real smile full of warmth and respect. You continue to surprise me, Tejo of Earth. Every time I think I understand humans, you show me something new. Perhaps that is why your species has spread so far across the galaxy. You are not predictable. You cannot be easily understood, and that makes you both frustrating and wonderful. She stood slowly, her old bones creaking with the movement. I will leave you two alone. You have much to talk about. But know this, Tejo. Whatever you decide, whatever happens between you and Lyra, you are welcome in this house. You have proven yourself worthy of our respect and our trust. That will not change. She walked away, disappearing into the shadows of the house. Tejo and Lyra sat alone in the quiet room. The lights had dimmed automatically, leaving only a soft glow that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. What happens now? Lyra asked. Tejo looked at her. In the soft light, her silver skin seemed to glow from within. Her violet eyes were deep and beautiful, full of questions and hopes. Now, he said, we get to know each other, not as species or as experiments, as people. That is where all good things begin. Lyra smiled, and in that smile, Tejo saw something that looked very much like hope. The weeks that followed were unlike anything Tejo had experienced in his 2 years at the station. He still did his job, still processed cargo and solved problems, and helped frustrated traders. But now when his shift ended, he had somewhere to go. He had people waiting for him. He visited the Valari home every few days. Sometimes he stayed for dinner. Sometimes he stayed until morning, sleeping in a guest room that the family had prepared just for him. Each visit brought him closer to understanding these strange, beautiful people who had welcomed him into their lives. Neva became like a little sister to him. She was endlessly curious about everything human, and Tejo found himself enjoying her enthusiasm. He taught her how to cook simple Korean dishes, laughing as she added too much salt and made faces at the spicy flavors. He showed her how to fold paper into shapes, a skill his grandmother had taught him long ago. Neva made dozens of paper cranes and hung them around her room, declaring them the most wonderful decorations in the galaxy. One evening, Tejo brought his old guitar from his quarters on the station. He had not played it in months, maybe years. But Neva had asked to hear human music, and he could not refuse her. He sat in the main room of the Valari home, the guitar resting on his knee. The whole family gathered to listen, even Sela, who leaned against her usual spot on the wall with her arms crossed. Tejo played a simple song, a traditional melody from Korea about a traveler far from home. His fingers were rusty, and he made several mistakes. But the music filled the room, and when he looked up, he saw tears in Lyra's eyes. It is beautiful, she whispered. So sad and so hopeful at the same time. Most human music is like that, Tejo said. We carry our sorrow and our hope together. They are not opposites to us. They are two sides of the same feeling. After that, music became part of his visits. Neva begged for lessons, and Tejo taught her how to strum basic chords. Her silver fingers were longer than human fingers, but she learned quickly. Soon she was playing simple songs, her voice joining the music in a language Tejo did not understand, but somehow felt in his heart. Danny became his most interesting conversation partner. The scientist was fascinated by human biology and history, and she asked questions that made Tejo think deeply about his own species. "How do you explain persistence hunting?" she asked one evening. They were sitting in her laboratory surrounded by strange equipment and glowing screens. "Your ancestors would chase animals for hours, sometimes days, until the animals collapsed from exhaustion. No other species does this." Tejo thought about the question. "I think it comes from our minds more than our bodies. Humans can imagine the future. We can see ourselves succeeding even when we are tired and hurt. That ability to hope, to believe that things will get better if we just keep going, is what allowed us to outlast stronger and faster creatures." Danny recorded his answer on her device. "Remarkable. Your species survived through pure psychological endurance. No wonder you are classified as dangerous." "Do you still think I am dangerous?" Tejo asked. Danny looked at him with her calm, analytical eyes. Then she smiled, a rare expression for her. "Yes," she said, "but the good kind of dangerous, the kind that protects rather than destroys." Even Sella warmed to him, though in her own way. She challenged him to sparring matches, teaching him Valari fighting techniques. He lost every single match, usually within seconds. But each time he got up and tried again, and each time Sela nodded with approval. "You do not learn quickly," she told him one day, helping him up from the floor for the 10th time. "But you do not stop learning. That is more important." "My father used to say that falling is not failure," Tejo replied, rubbing his sore shoulder. "Failure is staying down." Sela laughed. It was no longer the short, sharp laugh of their first meeting. It was fuller now, warmer. "I like your father's wisdom. He sounds like a warrior." "He is a factory worker," Tejo said. "But in his own way, yes, he is a warrior." The greatest change was in his relationship with Kessa. The suspicious sister had watched him carefully for weeks, waiting for him to make a mistake, to reveal some hidden flaw. But as time passed and Tejo remained honest and kind, her suspicions slowly transformed into something else. One evening, a crisis arose at the trading station. A group of aliens from a species called the Drogon were harassing Valari traders, claiming they had cheated in a business deal. Lyra was at the center of the conflict, facing down 3 Drogon who were twice her size. Tejo happened to be nearby when the shouting started. He did not think. He simply walked between Lyra and the Drogon, putting himself in harm's way. "There seems to be a problem," he said calmly. "Maybe I can help." The largest Drogon looked down at him with contempt. "This is not your business, human. Step aside." "I work for station security," Tejo lied. Well, it was only half a lie. His job did involve some security duties. "Any dispute on this station is my business. Now, what happened?" The Drogon tried to intimidate him, looming over him and baring their teeth. But Tejo did not move. He had faced the cold orb. He had eaten the burning root. A few angry aliens did not frighten him. In the end, the dispute was resolved peacefully. The Drogon had misunderstood the terms of the deal. Once Tejo explained the mistake calmly and clearly, they apologized and left. Kessa witnessed the whole thing. She approached Tejo afterward, her expression unreadable. "You did not have to do that," she said. "You put yourself in danger for my sister." Tejo shrugged. "Lyra is my friend. Friends help each other." Kessa was quiet for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She bowed her head, a gesture of deep respect among the Valari. "I have been wrong about you," she admitted. "I thought you were like other aliens, selfish and unreliable. But you are different. You are good." From that day forward, Kessa was no longer suspicious. She was still serious and protective. But now that protection extended to Tejo as well. He had become part of the family she guarded. And then there was Lyra. Their relationship grew slowly, carefully. They talked for hours about their lives, their dreams, their fears. Lyra told him about growing up knowing her species was dying, about the pressure to find solutions, about the guilt she felt for wanting things for herself instead of just for her people. Tai-Ho told her about Earth, about growing up in a small apartment with too many people and not enough space. He told her about leaving home to work in the stars, about the loneliness of being far from everyone he loved. He told her about his dreams of making a difference, of doing something that mattered. "You have already made a difference," Lyra said one night. They were sitting on a balcony overlooking the colony's ship, watching the stars drift past. "You have changed us. Changed me." "How?" Tai-Ho asked. Lyra turned to look at him. In the starlight, her silver skin seemed to glow like moonlight on water. "Before I met you, I thought of humans as just another species. Useful, maybe. Interesting, perhaps. But not special. Now I know I was wrong. Humans are not special because of what you can do. You are special because of what you choose to do. You choose kindness when cruelty would be easier. You choose courage when fear would be safer. You choose love when duty would be simpler." She took his hand, her fingers intertwined with his, different shapes fitting together in a new kind of pattern. "I did not choose to have feelings for you, Tai-Ho, but I choose to tell you about them. I choose to see where they lead. Is that acceptable to you?" Tai-Ho looked at their joined hands. Two species, two worlds, two completely different lives. Nothing about this made sense. Nothing about this should work. But he remembered what he had told Aura. The best things in life come from free choice. "Yes," he said simply. "That is acceptable." Lyra smiled. And in that smile, Tai-Ho saw not just hope, but something deeper. Something that looked very much like love. He had come to space looking for work. He had found something far greater. He had found a home. Stories traveled through their colony ships like fire through dry grass. A human had been welcomed into a Valari family. A human had passed the warrior's trial. A human had earned the respect of a matriarch and won the heart of one of their daughters. It seemed impossible. It seemed wonderful. Other families wanted to know more. Tai-Ho began receiving messages from Valari he had never met. Some were curious, asking about human customs and beliefs. Some were hopeful, asking if he knew other humans who might be interested in meeting Valari families. Some were skeptical, questioning whether the stories were even true. Aura helped him navigate this sudden attention. She became something like a manager, screening requests and organizing meetings. Not all of them went well. Some Valari were too eager, pushing too hard for commitments before trust was established. Some humans were uncomfortable with the idea of relationships with aliens. But slowly, carefully, connections began to form. Danny presented her research to the Valari Scientific Council. Her findings about human-Valari genetic compatibility were confirmed and expanded. For the first time in generations, the Valari had real hope for their future. Not just survival through cloning, but true growth, true evolution, true life. The galactic community took notice. The Valari had always been minor players in interstellar politics, respected for their crafts but dismissed as insignificant. Now suddenly they had something valuable. They had a connection to humanity, one of the fastest growing and most adaptable species in the galaxy. Other species began to pay attention to the Valari. Trade offers increased. Diplomatic invitations arrived. The once dismissed trading ships became popular destinations for those who wanted to understand the strange partnership forming between silver-skinned aliens and stubborn humans from Earth. 3 months after Tai-Ho first walked into that house full of alien women, Aura announced a ceremony. It was a traditional Valari ritual, one that had not been performed in many years, a ritual of recognition. The ceremony was held in the Great Hall of the colony ship, a vast space with walls of living crystal that pulsed with soft colors. Hundreds of Valari gathered, representatives from dozens of families. They sat in the concentric circles around a raised platform in the center of the hall. Tai-Ho stood on that platform, feeling very small and very visible. He wore simple clothes, the same black pants and white shirt he had worn to that first dinner. He had considered finding something more formal, But Aura had told him to come as himself. The Valari were not honoring his clothes. They were honoring his character. Lyra stood beside him, her hand in his. She wore a traditional robe of deep silver, decorated with patterns that represented her family's history. Kessa stood behind them, tall and watchful. Neva sat in the front row, barely containing her excitement. Sella stood guard at the edge of the platform, her scarred arms crossed but her expression proud. Danny observed from nearby, still recording data even at a moment like this. Aura walked slowly to the center of the platform. Her voice, though soft, carried to every corner of the vast hall. "My people," she said, "for generations we have faced a darkness. We have watched our numbers shrink. We have felt our genetics weaken. We have feared the end of all we are. But tonight, I bring you hope." She turned to gesture at Tejo. "This human came to us as a stranger. He helped one of our daughters when he had nothing to gain. He accepted our invitation when others would have refused. He faced our trials when others would have fled. He learned our ways when others would have dismissed them. And he offered us not just his body, but his heart." The hall was silent. Every violet eye was fixed on Tejo. "In all my years," Aura continued, "I have never met a creature like him. Not because he is strong, though he is. Not because he is clever, though he is. But because he is kind. Because he chooses to do right when wrong would be easier. Because he sees us not as aliens or as problems, but as people. That is rare in this galaxy. That is precious beyond measure." She reached out and placed her hand on Tejo's shoulder. "I declare this human, Tejo of Earth, a friend of the Valari people. He is welcome in any Valari home, on any Valari ship, in any Valari gathering. He is not an outsider. He is one of us." A sound rose from the gathered Valari. It was not applause, not cheering. It was something deeper, a harmonic hum that seemed to vibrate through the very walls of the hall. Tejo felt it in his bones, in his heart, in his soul. It was acceptance. It was welcome. It was love. When the sound faded, Aura stepped back. Lyra squeezed Tejo's hand and looked at him with shining eyes. "Now you must speak," she whispered. "Tell them what is in your heart." Tejo had not prepared a speech. He did not know what to say. But as he looked out at the sea of silver faces and glowing violet eyes, words came to him from somewhere deep inside. "I am just a man," he began. His voice was quiet, but in the silence of the hall it carried. "I am not a hero or a leader. I am just someone who tries to do the right thing, even when it is hard. I came to space because I wanted to find something meaningful. I wanted to matter. I wanted to make a difference." He paused, looking down at Lyra's hand in his. "I found something more. I found a family. I found people who accepted me for who I am, not what I could give them. I found love in a place I never expected to find it. That is more than I ever hoped for. More than I ever dreamed." He looked up again, meeting the eyes of as many Valari as he could. "My people have a saying. We say that strangers are just friends we have not met yet. I thought I understood that saying, but I was wrong. It is not just about meeting new people. It is about opening your heart to the possibility that anyone, no matter how different, can become part of your life, part of your family, part of your soul." He took a deep breath. "The Valari and humans are different. We look different. We think different. We come from different stars. But we share something important. We both know what it is to struggle. We both know what it is to hope. We both know what it is to love. Those things connect us. Those things make us family, even if we were not born that way." He straightened his shoulders, standing taller. "I do not know what the future holds. I do not know if I can be what your people need. But I promise you this, I will try. I will give everything I have to help the Valari survive and grow. Not because it is my duty, not because it is expected, but because you are my family now, and family takes care of each other." The harmonic hum rose again, stronger this time. It filled the hall, filled the ship, seemed to fill the very stars outside. Tejo felt tears on his cheeks, though he did not remember starting to cry. Lyra wrapped her arms around him, holding him tight. Her silver skin was warm against his, her heartbeat matching his. Behind them, Kessa smiled for the first time since he had met her. Neva was crying and laughing at the same time. Even Sela wiped at her eyes, pretending it was just dust. When the ceremony ended and the crowds began to disperse, Teho found himself on a balcony overlooking the stars. The family gathered around him, not as hosts and guests, but as equals, as family. "What happens now?" Neva asked, the same question Lyra had asked him weeks ago. Taiho looked out at the infinite darkness, at the countless points of light that represented worlds and species and possibilities beyond counting. "Now we grow," he said. "Together. We learn from each other. We support each other. We face whatever comes as one family, not two species. It will not be easy. There will be problems and conflicts and misunderstandings. But we will solve them, because that is what families do." Lyra leaned against him, her head resting on his shoulder. "I am glad you came that night," she said. "I am glad you accepted my invitation." Teho smiled. He thought about how strange his life had become. A customs officer from Earth, standing on an alien ship, surrounded by alien women who called him family. It was impossible. It was wonderful. It was exactly where he belonged. "I am glad too," he said. He had come to space looking for work. He had found a family that spanned the stars, and that, he realized, was the greatest adventure of all.